done it. We've broadcast live again. Hopefully you can hear us okay. We tried to make sure we have a better microphone this time. Not really.
Hear Drew okay, at least.
It's really just about hearing me.
Yeah.
And the stream looks like it's already broken. This should surprise no one.
Our stream is broken.
Yep. My next project is going to be... All right, well, welcome to Inside Craft Show. If you've never seen this show, you are in for a treat. You want to mute that?
Whoa, yeah, this is way behind on
you're in for a treat, and that treat is Jeff's beard. It is fancy.
And laser caps,
apparently. It is. As you can see, we've added Batman making a special guest appearance. We got Ripley. We've got our brand new, soon-to-be patented Baby Seal Troll Force button that someone will get used, or will get used on someone. We've also got Craft Show stickers. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. But the biggest exciting thing is today's episode is presented with a live studio audience. We had a live studio audience that didn't make it.
Doesn't think we're
I think they're delayed. I think the live studio audience is delayed. That's the hard part.
They might be on a delay.
Yeah. We won't announce who it is yet, but...
No, it's coming though.
It did happen. So I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're having a great time. Jeff, good to see you again.
Haven't seen me in 2 minutes.
Hold on, I got to Germex this one up.
Oh, what? I guess I'm going to Germex after that.
Got to get clean. There's been a lot of troll talk lately. A lot of rumors going around. Lots of great conversations happening all over the place. Yeah, we're a little rowdy. We haven't been drinking yet. Jeff might be.
I haven't yet.
I got a Polar.
Mine's popped open, but not touched yet. Wow. Okay.
That was the greatest. That's what she said in history, and you just gave it. Mine. I just put water all over her. Yep. Yeah. That was live.
I wanted to go for it.
Seriously, we are not. We are stone sober.
We are. Yeah. This is what we're like all day.
Yeah, we're just excited. We're having a good day. You know. That just happened.
Yeah, it did.
I got snot coming out my nose. There's Polar all over the desk.
Yep.
All right, so we'll get serious. Today on Inside Craft Show, we're talking about a couple of different things.
Lots of different things. We have a scene breakdown.
Yeah, so we're going to do a scene breakdown where we talk about a film that we made. This prop behind me is from it. Hey, are you guys seeing this?
Oh, yeah.
Look at this.
The zebra pattern on our lamp.
Do you see this right here?
Upper right corner.
We don't know why it's happening. It's something from GH5 firmware beta.
Yep.
This little thing happening right here in the live stream. Look at it. It's weird looking. We don't know where that's coming from. We might monkey with it in a commercial break whenever we take one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so we're going to do a scene breakdown where we show you guys the prop behind me is from that film. It's called Nigel and Oscar versus Sasq-Watch. I think they've changed the title 17 times. We'll see what it's called when it comes out. We're just going to do a scene coverage breakdown, just kind of talking about here's setting up a sequence, how to look at it. It's also got an interesting grade element that I had forgotten about. That was a forced day for night scenario.
Oh, yeah.
Or
I
night
know
for
what
day.
you're talking about.
Day for night. Yeah. Anyway, so that one's kind of interesting. Jeff is going to show you some Prograde stuff. One of the funniest things about this particular Prograding element is it pits me versus Jeff in a grade off. I'm going to, spoiler alert, I win. Jeff No, it's terrible.
Okay. I don't care.
Yeah,
it's all subjective.
It is all subjective. Let's get those comments up real quick. Hang on for it.
Oh, yeah.
There they are.
We got a comment right at the very beginning here.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, we've got that. We've also got a discussion about HLG. There is so much confusion on HLG, at least what we're reading. Specifically, in this time, this HLG is related to the GH5 because it's one of the few cameras that can actually output HLG at the moment. There's others that can, but this is the one that's the hot one. And there's a lot of conversations about it. A lot of people wanting to use HLG as a workaround for log, or that was discussed.
Yeah.
Amongst other things. So
well, that's the first thing I thought of.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. In fact, Jeff accidentally shot a whole test sequence in HLG.
I did one time.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be vlog.
Yeah. Because
it happens.
It didn't have. It was a weird situation. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So let's see what's going on in the comments. How's everybody doing out there in comment land?
Everybody seems to be doing pretty good. Apparently the Apple logo is doing it, which it is.
Yeah, the Sasq-Watch logo, yeah. You guys are seeing that, whatever that funkiness is. We don't know what it's from.
So David Kashner My next project is going to premiere at Universal City Walk Theaters. Congratulations.
Yeah, man, that's great. Congratulations to David Kashner.
Yeah. Is there any benefit to shooting HLG over log in a theater that's probably Dolby Vision capable?
No,
I would say
because
no.
you'd have to present it in Dolby Vision, which is like a flavor of ice cream. Ice cream has the same ingredients, right? Has ice and cream. That's not true. It has milk and sugar and all kinds of other stuff, but then there's all the flavors of it that really differentiate Rocky Road from, let's say, French vanilla. Vanilla?
Vanilla?
Vanilla.
Is that banana and vanilla?
Yeah, French vanilla. I've been with my kids too much. It differentiates the two, so there's a pretty big difference. There's similarities, but it's at the end of the day, chocolate is different than vanilla. So I would say no, it wouldn't benefit.
I would say no.
You still have to do the workflow.
Well, you still have to get a Dolby Vision license, and the expenses of getting a Dolby Vision license and going through all that stuff it's not worth it, honestly, to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it does look a little creepy on the Apple logo, Dennis. I don't know what's going on. Jefu is here. Huawei, good to see you.
What is our go-to lens for the GH5? Right now, I'd probably say
it's an ingenue.
I'm the ingenue, definitely.
I'm just kidding. Like, you can't afford. That's not a good.
That would be my
Master Primes. A vintage
12 to
Zeiss.
60 is.
What?
And we have all these other lenses, but I would say the 12 to 60 is probably our go-to GH5 lens.
Yeah, it is totally.
It's just super easy to deal with.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a zoom and has decent, not really decent speed, but it works for what we've been using it for.
Yep. I can't comment on the exact dates because I don't even know.
Taco Tuesday. If it is the 27th, that's
keep in
tomorrow,
mind we're on beta firmware, kids. Like we're not even on the hottest newest. So pretty soon,
we're not.
Your entire dream of every card ever being tested will become true. I'm hitting the button.
No.
Baby Seal Troll Force, bringing up the troll stuff. All right, I wish that's what the button did. Maybe I'll just make myself sing that song.
Could.
Yeah, every single time
make
we
it happen.
program it. So we've got CRFTSHO stickers. These are our gear tags. We use these for us, but we thought it was kind of fun to maybe include this little open box at the bottom for you guys to write in whatever you want. We slap them on gear because that's our company name, and you can make your own too. But if you want a cool CRFTSHO sticker to write Baby Seal Troll Force, or Drew's a doofus head, or Knuckle Turtery Supreme, whatever you want to put in the bottom here, you're welcome to do that. The only way that we're going to give these out or get these to you is when we launch a Patreon page that may or may not happen sometime soon.
May or may not.
That was my
that was actually
Conan O'Brien. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a really good...
stream stall.
Nope, stream still.
Stream stall.
It's back.
I did just spit water on this Panasonic card. Sorry, Sean. Sorry, Matt. Gangster.
Oh,
so
it'll be fine.
Let's talk about scene breakdowns first, and then we'll go into some of the grading stuff. Is there any hot pressing questions in here?
No, everybody's going off the 1835 Sigma, which the reason we don't have that as our go-to is we don't have that lens.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah, and we have primes, and then we have the 12 to 60. And
we have a set of Zeiss CPs, so that's what we're running off of. Jamal and Jefu, are you guys brothers? Can you monitor using Panasonic's app in 5K, 6K? No.
You can, if not with Panasonic's app, but with the field monitor.
Yeah, you can.
But you cannot set focus or anything like that off of that app.
To record 6K, I think technically, as long as you're not 6K, I think you can get away with... Didn't we get it to work on an Lexar 1000 card?
Yes, we did.
We got 6K to work on a Lexar 1000 card. I wouldn't bank on it, but it worked.
Yeah.
If you're going to end up doing 6K square or 4K, sorry, if you're going to do 4K anamorphic all eye, then I would get a V90 card. As you guys have seen, there's about 1 billion different cards on that that you can use. Panasonic is one, which is way expensive, but not really considering, again, we're used to buying these that we've talked about it last time. This one's bad. So this is $850?
Yeah. Well, it was when we first bought it.
Yeah, $850 when we first bought it, garbage. And so now we have to deal with that problem. And so, you know, you could be in that boat. You could be dealing with that. So the fact that if you really are concerned about the project, if I were shooting a film, a doc, something that's once in a lifetime, I would personally go with the Panasonic cards. If not, the Angel Bird cards, Angel Fire, Angel Chicken, Angel Dust. The Angel Dust cards by Faith No More are the absolute best alternative from what I've heard. We haven't tested those. The Delkin have done okay.
Yeah, we have had 2 problems with them.
And we've noticed
lag.
lag.
The whole entire time,
no lag in the Delkin.
Yeah.
And lastly, but not leastly, I think Hoodman has steel reinforced cards. Have you seen that post?
I have, but are they?
I forget who posted it on Facebook. They're V90 cards.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I know people.
They're injected with steel and baby fairies. It's
cool.
amazing.
I know some people that use the compact flash cards all the time from them.
There you go. But, and I mean, Hoodman's a pretty pro brand.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it would be.
Didn't know they were making V90s.
Yeah.
Be worth checking out.
But I would stick to V90 cards. I mean, if you are on the cheap and you're really concerned about, like, you know, seriously, if you're truly a budget-minded consumer and you really, the only thing you care about is dollars, then you might get away with the V60 card. But I work in a professional space. Jeff works in a professional space. I cannot risk the thousands of dollars to save 25 bucks. That's how I view it. I look at the lifetime of the product. If you're a hobbyist, V60 might be great for you, but if you use the camera in any professional capacity, you don't just owe it to yourself, you actually owe it to your client to make sure that you're capturing the footage, because nothing's worse than losing footage or losing something. So I wouldn't risk it. I would get a V90 card at the minimum. Me personally, you know, I'm hoping that the Panasonic cards, you know, are drop in price slightly, or, you know, somehow get a little bit cheaper. If not, we're going to test like everybody else. We've got the Delkins, and we're still not 100% on the Delkins for pro use. For test videos, for you guys, we do it all day.
I think that we've kind of gone farther and farther away from the Delkins.
We have, actually, yeah.
Because of the misfires.
And then the lag. We weren't a big fan of the lagging. So.
The Angel Fire cards is what it's actually.
Angel Dust. All right, so I'm going to jump into this first scene. So what we're going to show you here is a scene from a film that I directed. Jeff was the colorist on. It's a short. No, it's not.
It's not.
It was a short feature. It's a feature called Nigel and Oscar versus Sasquatch. They've changed it. Anyway, in the scene, we have Neil Flynn, who you might recognize as the janitor from Scrubs. We have Adam Herschman from Accepted, Paul Brittain from SNL, and then we have Christine Bentley, who is a Maxim girl. I think I can say that.
Yeah.
Her video.
She has a video up. Too.
She was on Ballers. Yeah. Yeah, she was on Ballers.
That's just where we'll leave it.
Yeah. So anyway, so they're sitting around in the scene. It is a kind of like a coming-of-age story about a couple of K-turds wandering around looking for Sasquatch for a reason. So here is that clip. So we're going to look at the scene first. Here we go.
The food Samson makes is really hearty, like something you'd find in a Marlboro commercial.
What is this?
Soup.
Is there meat in it?
Yep.
What kind of meat?
Possum.
Wow.
Samson, I told you I was a vegetarian.
Tell you what, why don't you pick the pieces out, when you get back, bring them to a vet, see what they can do.
Ugh!
Grandma's secret recipe.
I know a secret recipe for Rice Krispie bars.
Do tell.
What I'm saying is, if you don't want to share a tent with him, that's okay. You could sleep in that tent with Oscar. I'll stick with Samson.
I'm good.
Okay, so there's that scene. Obviously, that is a slightly earlier version of the film, the final print version. As we learned last week when we tried to show another film that I own, they still won't release that one, which is cool. That's they're doing their job protecting the film from being pirated, but they still won't release it. So I can't show last week's episode with the insane knuckle turd rant and everything else that happened. So so this time I did Nigel and Oscar because it's not out yet, so it's not up in their servers to protect. But this is a scene, and I can kind of control what we release, and we release that little scene. So I'm going to kind of go through the process of it. That's a kind of a tricky sequence. I'm going to bring up a still and just kind of look at it from that way, and me and Jeff will talk about it. And we'll probably watch it twice, not the full scene, but the little sequence to kind of talk about various aspects, because there's some color grade things that went on in that, and there's some other production issues that I think are worth discussing. So first things first, you have this image here of everyone sitting around the fire. This is later in the sequence. It's meant to set up a geographical point. And in this case, if you notice, Paul Brittain is wearing the khaki vest. He is separated from everyone else. He becomes the linchpin. And if you watch the coverage, it kind of bounces around. And originally the scene was a little bit longer. We used him as a linchpin to kind of tie his look points together because he can look left or right and kind of establish whenever we need to bail out. We got extra coverage on him in order for us to bail ourselves out. So inside of this, everyone's kind of looking derivative towards Samson, which is played by Neil Flynn there, the janitor from Scrubs. Everyone's looking in his direction because obviously he has the primary of the lines and he's the joke master, if you will, of this particular bit. A lot of improv in this scene, especially from Mr. Herschman right here. He actually ate all that steak, which was quite funny. And did
steak,
yeah, he did it multiple times because he is a true champ and a brilliant actor in that own right. So when we get into the coverage of this, I'm going to let it loop. So when we get into the coverage of this, what we ended up doing is we just kind of found that center point using Paul as that anchor. And then eventually when we cut in post, we were able to kind of go back and use Adam Herschman as an anchor as well.
So I was going to say. and
we were able to use Adam and Adam is in the striped shirt with kind of the poofier hair. We were able to use him as an anchor and kind of do cross coverage back and forth to kind of let it make sense, if you will, narratively speaking. And then the food becomes the big gag in it. Again, there was more dialogue. It just didn't play poorly. It just didn't play in the space of the timing that I was after and that the editor kind of came up with as well when we worked through the process. So you can kind of see that most people are looking either left to right or right to left. In this case, we are looking left to right to connect to Christine, who now in the master shot you can see where she is as Miss Christine Bentley walks away. And again, Paul would have been the linchpin. Now, you might notice some interesting elements in the grade. And one of the things that we face in this, there was a challenge of any production, was that we were shooting on top of a mountain with little to no power. I think we had like maybe 20 amps.
Yeah.
I think
we had a little putt-putt with us.
Yeah, we had a little putt-putt, so it was barely putting out any chutzpah at all. So you can see in the background there how the clouds look kind of diminished and the grade has a little bit of funkiness to it. Can you talk about like how you had to deal with some of this?
This whole thing, except for Paul, is all daytime shots.
Right.
When we got the Paul,
Paul's in the khaki vest.
The daytime had gone away, and it had now become full-blown night when Paul's shot was there. So we had to do a big day for night change on the whole rest of the shoot.
Which is also why there's no fire.
Yes. Because the fire didn't have to be there originally.
Right. We ran into some time issues like any other production does. Yeah. That's how it works. That's just part of the process of telling a story.
It is. It's one of those things that happens on a shoot when you only have a certain amount of time and a location. And, you know, you get to where you can't really push any more days into it. So, and you have to just shoot how you have to shoot it. But you're also within the time limits of your day and overtime and stuff like that. So
you kind of have to make it work how you make it work. All right, so what we're going to do is then just jump back over to here and here.
Comments. So yeah, there's probably a lot of comments over here.
So that's kind of just talking about scene coverage and looking at a scene breakdown from that perspective. I just like to throw in the color correction stuff because I know we have a lot of tech users on here. Yep. In this particular instance, the coverage became more a matter of making sure we got everyone we needed and giving ourselves plenty of outpoints and linchpins to tell the story. And we did it. It told the little story of that scene, which is that she's a vegetarian and, you know, that Samson, Neil Flynn's character, is going to be a little bit grumpy. And so it's just building up on those character notes, which is what we're after in that sequence. If you look at the scene story, that's what the scene story is, and that's what we got. So the challenge of the nighttime element was something else. So I see we have some comments.
We do.
Did you guys compare? We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Good Day. That's a great name. I'll answer your question. Is this raw ungraded footage? No, it is not, Trev. That is not raw ungraded footage. That is an earlier color version.
Yeah, we just explained it too.
Yeah.
It is an earlier color version, but to make the nighttime stuff, make it day for night, and to match the already done night shot, the process was desatting some of it first to make the match. Later in the other version, it is bumped up somewhat.
And also keep in mind, I know a lot of us look at 3 minutes at a time or less because a lot of us are content users or content creators that make short micro pieces. or even in commercials. In the case of a film, we've seen so much daytime that's got pops of color and saturation that it's kind of nice sometimes to get yourself into a scenario where you slow things down, like this scene was. It's a bridge scene to transport us between scenarios. It's nice. The very next, the scene preceding this is a sunset shot that is very dynamic and super beautiful and poised for that reason. The scene following this is a sunrise shot because it's the morning. So we needed some sort of bridge. So it's an idea of not just looking at the context of a scene in one way, but looking at the context of a scene of how it impacts the entire story. Also in terms with the style of the blocking. So the DP on this was a guy named Jamie Ehrman. Jamie's really talented, but
very talented. We've
talked about this before. I think I've shown another clip, but Jamie and I had a very specific way we wanted to shoot the film, and we found that there were nice little moments for us to mix up the coverage a little bit, to just give it a little more of a traditional feel. I just wasn't really in the mood to do a long lensed, handheld, intimate focus film. That's not what this is. Comedy is normally loose, more so than tight, so it's loose framing with a little bit of wiggle room. Certainly as we did more improv scenes, we found that to be the case in post, and we wanted to make sure we had plenty of latitude to play and make things interesting as we go. While we asked, Jeff, how did you decide on a color palette?
Color palette isn't necessarily just me. Color palette for this film actually was in pre-production. We talked it out. Me, Drew, Scott Robinson, one of the producers, Jamie Ehrman, and who was the DP, and the art director, Mark
Sarah too.
Yeah, and Sarah was a part of that too. It was art, wardrobe, me, director, and DP.
And then a producer.
Talked it out, producer that helped us kind of just get along with it. But everybody's kind of already on the same page with it originally. I mean, basically, I like to read the script when it's a feature film and then give my ideas of how I think it would look. Drew is very clear on how he thinks things should look. Most DPs are extremely clear on what they think it'll look like. And then your art department usually tries to throw in as much of their own stuff into it at the same time. And this was just a group of people that all of us are actually pretty decently good friends still. I mean, we just all kind of think the same about everything, so it was actually quite easy for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was... as a director, you get presented options, and then we take those options and present to others, and kind of go from there. Lav or shotgun mics on location, Jimmy asks. Both, yeah. I mean, all the actors are wired, and then there's always a boom to get ambient. So you have a boom op. Usually you have a boom op, a utility, and a mixer. In this case, we had a boom and a utility. No, I'm sorry.
A mixer.
A boom and a mixer. Jared Jones. And so Jared did Jared's really talented mixer. Check him out on IMDb. Like, guys just blew up. Like, he literally, he's accelerated his career very quickly. But Jared did that, and he did the post audio mix as well, which this is not representative of whatsoever. But he did all of those elements along with a company called Sonic Pool to finish it. Long story short, yes, lavs and boom always.
Yes.
And you mix them accordingly. Dialogues pulled from certain elements. The amount of post audio work that goes into a feature is a lot more than people realize because they take it for granted. It's a ton of work. It really is, and it's a much bigger team. Even on small shows, it's a much bigger team. Unless you're cheap like me and you force Jared to do it all because he's good at it.
But then you went to Sonic Pool too.
But then I had to finish the mix.
We have
at Sonic
to,
Pool.
yeah. Because we didn't have the technology here to do it.
Question. Trev asks, does the color palette ever determine the camera chosen? Yes, it does. Jamie Ehrman and I both fought vehemently to get to shoot this on Arri Alexa. We both wanted nothing more than to shoot on Alexa because of the highlight roll-off, because it's so much daylight exterior. Again, I know this is a night shot, but the majority of the film is them wandering through the woods trying to find Sasquatch, and it's so much daylight exterior. We talked to Jeff, who had worked on a couple of Arri pictures, and this would have been the 2.8, which meant we would have delivered in 1080p because of the whole sensor resolution thing. You know, you multiply 0.7 times your sensor size to get the actual resolution of the sensor thing. So we would have really just finished in 1080p. That's something I was just studying recently, that sensor gimmick. Anyway, long story short of it, we wanted Alexa, but the budget did not allow for it because we already owned the Red Epic and 2 other Scarletts. You know, they let us rent lenses. We shot this on Cooke S4s.
Cooke S4s and the 12x1.
And the ingenue 12:1.
Yeah.
The ingenue 12:1. So, or 12:100. Sorry.
It's 12:1.
Yeah.
It's a
long lens.
Yeah.
All right.
So 12. We the answer Justin Gale's thing. We actually shot 2-camera most of the time.
Yep.
Steadicam was usually a single camera by itself, but just about everything else was 2-cam.
Yeah, I like to shoot 2 cameras just because I feel like it's a service to your actors. And that's a plug for a smaller camera, whether it's a Blackmagic or a Red, or really, Reds are a little tricky because they're the price point, but cheaper cameras, I should say, budget-friendly cameras, 2 GH5s, you could cover a scene better and focus more on performance so that you don't have to tweak them multiple times. Some people like a single camera because they think it gives them a better film. I don't really know if you treat the A camera like a single camera and understand that the B cam can capture things that A can't at the same time. You don't cut your coverage down. You actually just approach it from an angle of, okay, so A camera's got this guy. Why don't we just get some coverage on Samson while he's serving soup, because the camera's primarily on Oscar right now and we're already lit for it. So great. It's a little bit harder on the DP and his team to do that sometimes, but if you have a really good team,
sometimes
they'll come through. Yeah, they'll come through for sure.
Definitely one of the best teams I've ever been with.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. Great camera department.
But I mean,
great
it's
GD
also
department.
it's another one of those, like, for comedy. From my cases of being on them, is when you have talent like Neil Flynn or Herschman or Paul, you don't really want to take the camera.
Tim Meadows is in the movie too, and he's another improv guy.
But when you have those kind of talent, you don't really want to take the camera off of them in case they do something crazy because they stay in character all the time. So you might get extra comedy bits out of it.
Yeah, especially for improv type stuff. And
if you're having to do the crosses and then they do a great something that doesn't end up going to match because you have to recreate what they did from the other cross.
Absolutely.
It just doesn't make sense. And when you have 2 camera teams, basically you might as well throw them in there.
If I had the choice, Eamon asked, if I had the choice, would you go back and have a fire going, even a fake one, just to make it look like a real camp scene and have some red filtered lights on the actors' faces? I probably wouldn't do red filtered lights on the faces. Jamie begged for another nighttime scene because he wasn't obviously very happy. No. I'm happy with the performances in the scene. I probably wouldn't change a whole lot in that. I probably would have moved this scene to a different location because we were in the woods so long.
That's what I would say.
I'd probably move it to a different location where I could have brought in more background ambient lighting. We were limited in that spot, so the other side of this to consider is that if you guys are looking at the camera, sorry to be over here, this is like a boardwalk. That's where we had that's where we had the putt-putt Jenny, because we could walk out there so you can see this big view. We're on top of a mountain. The view's insane. Again, previous scene shows that and establishes the geography of that element. But there's a boardwalk here, so I really can only shoot. My angles were limited to this direction. I couldn't come around this way too far. So I would have probably moved it to another location, probably shot the full scene at night. But part of the call on the script was not to do a bunch of nighttime scenes. In retrospect, learning moment, I probably would have pushed for a more of a nighttime element.
I agree.
It gets tricky in budgeting too, because a lot of people don't fully understand how all that works. And that's a huge, tremendous breakdown of if you start your day at 7 a.m., you must wrap your day. And wrap doesn't mean the camera stops pushing record. That means people are in their cars going home or to the hotel or their whatever. Has to stop at 12 hours. That means they have to be off the clock at 12 hours. And if you're in a budget, on a budgeted feature, even though this was, a lot of money, it wasn't a huge budget. And so we had to be conscious of that because I wanted to be able to make sure I spent money on music. Because again, music's very expensive in post. So there's always, it's very easy to watch anybody's content, anyone's content, and make judgments and be, quick. I'm not saying you're doing that, by the way. It's a great question you asked. But I'm just saying in general, when we watch other people's content, it's very easy to be quick and harsh on them, but you don't know the full circumstances of all the chaos they went through to have that delivered. So I try not to trash anybody's movie, because I've been down that road before and you don't know the circumstances. And sometimes it is subjective. Sometimes it's just a story element. Like, originally in this film, he's carving a giant wooden penis the entire time, and I was like, that's not funny to me. It's funny for like the first 5 minutes, and then you look back on it and go, why is he carving a giant penis for 45 minutes of a film, and it doesn't make any sense. So it got nixed.
It was incredibly funny to me in the script
Yeah.
Once we started shooting it, I'm glad we got rid of it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Sailing Rewind.
To the last time, no.
Troll Force button for you, buddy. Yeah, I know. I was going to actually mention that as we transitioned over. That's great. Sorry to sound harsh. Dude, no, that wasn't harsh at all.
Nope.
Ian, not one, Iman. It wasn't harsh. That's not how I take it. That's why I said it was a great question.
It is a great
I'm just saying, like, it's a lesson that I've learned over looking at my own work. I can be hypercritical. I can look at other people's stuff and tear it down. Tearing someone down when you don't know the full story. If you're a crew member and you were there and you're also a seasoned DP, yeah, you might have a better opinion. But just looking at someone's video on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and ripping them apart.
Even in the movie theater.
Even in the movie theater. You don't know. You weren't there. The only thing you can tear apart is the story. That's fair game. Because that's subjective. Yeah. You can tear apart how it looks, but in essence, you don't know why it looks that way. Like we told you, we were forced into a day for night scenario. So it's sometimes about taking on perspective when you look at other people's work.
It is.
Joe asked, where do you get your music licensing? That depends on what you're referring to. On this film, we had
for the film.
Okay, for this film, we were really lucky and got Les Claypool from Primus to give us. We got 3 songs from him, and then we had a bunch of cover songs. So the entire film is mostly filled with cover songs done in a bluegrass format. So there's some kind of funny ones like Winona's Big Brown Beaver. That's a Les Claypool or Primus song, that they covered in a bluegrass format. There's got 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton. There's lots of other versions of that.
There are.
Yeah, there's lots of. We wanted more, but they got to be too expensive.
Yeah.
So we use a music suit for that, which is how you have to do it when you're dealing with a theatrical film release, because we have all kinds of licensing and you have to market in multiple territories and this whole phrase of perpetuity of the known universe, whatever the heck that means, but legal catchphrase to cover your ass. Our YouTube videos, we use Artlist. I should plug in our little thing so you guys can get a free month and we get a free month or something. I forget how it works. Artlist is pretty rad, though we're coming up on feel a little bit limited on the music lately.
Starting to, yeah.
Yeah, feels a little limiting.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, Les Claypool. Yeah, he's not going to get baby sealed Troll Force
for him to be part of this group.
Oh, if I could get Les Claypool to pop in, I'd be the happiest guy alive to make that happen.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, I would say all the places you just said, the answer MPEG.
I didn't MPEG. I'm not a YouTube star. That's just from negotiating deals. I worked it into the budget. The other place you can do it is like the bigger music libraries, APM.
Yeah.
Good God, I haven't used them in so long. APM's a big music library. They have a lot of really good tracks. They're going to cost you a lot of money, though. I want you to realize, like,
some of them do.
Movie tracks cost a lot.
Yeah.
Seek out music supervisors. They're the best angle because they're kind of like casting directors. They have contacts inside the industry that can help you. If you saw the Convergence clips I showed a few episodes ago, I don't remember when it was, we had Santa Monica by Everclear, because the film takes place in the 90s.
Yeah.
And we could not get a good 90s song until Santa Monica agreed, or Everclear agreed to do our music supervisor a favor, and he got us that song in place of it, and he really bailed us out. So just FYI, that's kind of how we approach it that way.
Yeah.
Is there a mascot? No, I know. We need some T-shirts made. I think we need stickers too, because like a BSTF
have a different mascot being formed, but not BSTF.
Yeah, we need a BSTF one.
We do need.
We have the button, the first official button for it.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump in and talk about other stuff. So,
what do we want to talk about? Spiders?
Spiders. I know that we wanted to sit down and kind of talk about some log stuff. So, if you guys saw the video a couple of days ago, I know James Dean is killing it. Thank you, brother. Craft Show nowadays, you can get anything online, even voiceovers, narrator. Yeah, it's a little bit different. You still have to, if you're a SAG movie, there's a lot of rules that go into this. So if you're a SAG movie, you have to use a SAG actor, or you have to put them in, and then you have to go through a whole series of paperwork, and they have to be SAG approved. That's when you get into the next tier of filmmaking, like whenever you guys all graduate into, hey, I got funded, I'm making a movie, and it's $3 million, and I have all these SAG actors, you'll soon realize there's union contracts, SAG contracts, DGA contracts. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into it that most people don't realize that enables or disables your storytelling. One way or the other.
There's a lot of new rules you have to deal with.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules that you have to deal with. All right, so I want to just go in and talk about the log stuff. So we shot this log breakdown because we noticed that people were very curious about how to grade log and approach log, and I've seen a lot of complaints on log, and I'm not here to defend anything. I'm only here to present evidence and truth. You know what? It's beer 30.
Do it. I've already cracked mine open. I've only drank it once.
Keep one, just for times like this.
See,
So,
yeah.
and I'll answer some film questions after this. Let's get through the log element so we can get onto the Q&As. But I just want to keep it tight. So, James, yeah, we're going to make a note of it, and I'll answer the question. I'll come back. So, when we looked at it, people didn't really understand it. Hell, I didn't fully understand it when I first started, and so it took me some while to get it, and then I've had Jeff, and we've kind of worked through it. So what we did was, I went out and shot some log footage. I posted up how I approached it. I graded all of this in Premiere. I didn't use a LUT. I went straight off scopes using Lumetri and put it together. So what we're about to see is Jeff's grade versus my grade. Now, this first shot you're going to see here is not going to be part of the comparison, but that is a shot where I purposely put myself in the middle of sunlight and exposed from the middle just to show what happens and how challenging that can be from a visual aspect. So let's take a look at that. Let me kill this little doodad.
With hard sunlight.
There we go. So as you can see, just hanging out, there's that hard sunlight. So now when we make the transition over, we'll probably see this a couple of times. Yeah. This is Jeff's grade, and this footage here is just Jeff's grade, which is totally different than the way I put it together. His is way more balanced. His colors pop in the right direction. Mine had a little bit what I felt like was a magenta. I'm sorry, was a little bit of an orange hue to it. Jeff balanced it back out. And what you'll see on this next shot is actually that is my grade. Or yeah, that's my grade. And then what is wiping over slowly but surely is Jeff's grade. I think that's right. Nope, that's reversed. This is Jeff's grade, and this is my grade because you can see the sunlight in the sky. You wouldn't have done that.
No.
Yeah. So what you guys can see in the sky there is where I made my mistakes. One of the biggest things that I found super fascinating in the difference between grading in Davinci and grading in Lumetri, Premiere, whatever, is the amount of detail that is lost and gained. Look at how much clearer Jeff's shots are as this wipe goes over. Look how much clearer it is in the background. Mine has gone to mush, and yours has somehow retained all of this data. That's not to just say using Davinci is going to do that for you. It's to say that using Davinci, if you're a professional colorist or you've taken the time to learn that format, is going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I think it does. I definitely think. Which, I mean, a lot of people, in all honesty, being a colorist, a lot of people do not have the opportunity to use a professional colorist.
Right.
So, you know, it's experimentation and trying to get it to work, really. It's what a lot of people do. I've had a couple of people email me about questions and stuff like that. This one of the stuff you're doing, right? Scroll through. That's the stuff that really kind of is blowing me away at this moment.
Yeah, so I'm going to loop this back over real quick. All right, so what we have is the log shot that will transition into Drew's grade.
That's yours.
So you saw the raw image, you see Drew's grade, and now you're going to see Jeff's grade. And just notice the detail pop. It's insane when you start looking at the green detail pop, the amount of control that's there, the balance. This is this stupid spider. There's dadgum spiders. So banana spider, the log shot. There's the Drew grade. Not bad, but pay attention to the spider webs. I should probably post this footage for you guys to download as well. I think I will. Look at the detail that comes out in the spider web shots now in Jeff's version versus mine, the amount of detail that is brought back. This one's even crazier. So there's the raw log shot, the spider doing creepy spider crap, and then spider crap. There's the Drew grade. I was pretty happy with it. I thought this was fairly balanced until I saw yours, and then my whole world was shattered. Look at the spider webbing element. Look at the beautiful sunlight hitting the spider. How much clearer, how much prettier. To me, that's way more inviting and something I want to see. So we're just back into the loop. Can you kind of talk about now how you approach, or let me backtrack and say how I approached the grade was a very basic technique inside of Lumetri of pulling up the scopes, right? I'm sorry, pulling up the scopes, opening Lumetri, going to basic creative, or no, going under the color wheels or wherever they are, I don't remember what it is in Lumetri, and then basically equalizing the shot that way, expanding the contrast, but not really monkeying with the actual color wheels themselves, just leaving it kind of, you saw I did it in one and it turned everything orange, so I screwed that up, right? Gotcha. So I'm not denying the fact that I'm a novice, that's just the way I approach it. So Jeff, how do you approach log in this particular kind of scenario?
The thing is, especially this shot right here with the spider that's going on, is I expand first my highlights up, and then I expand my darks all the way, and then I judge my midtones. Like based off of that, when I was judging it off the spider itself and the trees that are right behind it, and then I do saturation after I do my expansions, and then I usually do a mid-tone pop or a mid-tone curve to help with it, and then after that, let's see, it's your basic. Trying to remember the way I did this approach here. The basic mid-tone elements, getting my greens to be the right color that I wanted them to be, and then working the highlights a little bit more to make them punch a little harder, and then warmed up the whole thing afterwards.
Yeah.
So I work mid-tones, highlights, then afterwards I work the whole entire thing, and then I balance out my blacks again at the very end.
So it's multi-steps to get it together.
It's multi-steps, yeah.
So it's not just, and there's no LUT involved or whatever. No, we're not trashing LUTs, by the way.
No, not at all.
I think LUTs are a great thing to use, but if you're really judging log, I wouldn't judge log with a LUT. I would judge log on how well you can grade it and shoot it, and expose it.
I agree.
And then drop a LUT in if you needed to. You know what I mean?
I use the LUT just for conversion purposes,
right?
Whenever we need to,
right?
But, yeah, and this right here was pretty easy for me. I took my midtones to about 40 IRE on that right there to bring out the low end of the foliage behind it. And then with this, it's easy because the color chart's giving me my saturation levels.
Right.
Usually it's the red and the yellow that pop the most. And so I can pull those. I usually pull them right to broadcast saves on a vector scope and then bring them back to where I like them.
There we go. All right, so let's pop back over to this for a second. There we are. Hello, welcome back, world.
Saw a bunch of stuff popping up.
So yeah, we had some things pop up in questions. One of them was, that's for the community.
Do you want to go to Joe first?
Yeah, Joe.
Feel like shooting log is worthwhile?
Yeah. All right, so Joe asks, Joe Mama Inc. asks, do you feel shooting log is worthwhile for simpler projects like YouTube or even wedding films? I would say it depends on how much time. So for example, if you're getting paid to shoot a wedding or a YouTube film, if you're getting paid to do that, how much time did you dedicate in post to do that? So let's say you dedicated 10 hours of editorial time. You assume you can have this all cut in 10 hours, and you are at the 5-hour mark typically, so you have a profit margin of 5 hours. So let's say you charge $5 an hour, you have a profit margin of $25. Good for you. So you have a, now that said, log, in my opinion, requires a little more time than that. So if you're at that 5-hour mark and you know you can cut a video in that short amount of time, then that 5 hours is your call to eat it. If you know that regularly you can cut a 10-hour bid project in 5 hours and you can spend another hour on your log grade and be happy with it. If you can do that, cool. You give away $5, you make $20 profit. You got paid for the job plus $20 profit. However, if you're not able to do that and you bid a 10-hour job and suddenly, or typically rather, and typically you deliver 10-hour jobs in 10 to 11 hours, I would hold off on doing log just yet. I would shoot in a profile that's going to help you make more money so that you have more free time to practice log and get yourself to that point. That's from a director-producer perspective. That's from a profitability perspective. From a colorist perspective and DP, what would you say?
From my perspective, I would always shoot vlog, but from a businessman side of it, I wouldn't.
Right.
I would do it basically off of what you just said. If we had enough time in post, profit-wise, still be able to throw that in or not. But I mean, honestly, weddings really would be pretty nice in vlog to me because you have a very large area to be able to grade it however you want to.
Yeah, as long as your wedding client's happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. I think you totally do it.
I know a lot of wedding clients that I've seen in other people's work are too anxious to wait for somebody to put in a full-time grade into.
Right, and you also got to look at your own time. So it's how you want to deliver it. I would argue if you're first starting out, it might be worth knowing log a little bit, practicing it, getting your grades where you get them, and then knowing, oh, in this lighting scenario, I know how to grade that, and just kind of building your own LUTs. Or practicing off of someone else's if you really have to go that route, but know how to expose for it, because if you expose it wrong, a LUT ain't going to fix it. A LUT is just straight information, so consider that. So Tyler asks, if Jeff were to grade in Lumetri, would it be comparable to Davinci? Essentially, is the difference in grade more attributed to the program or the colorist? To be honest with you, Tyler, I would say as a post super, both.
I would say both, except for Lumetri does not give you all of the tools that true color correcting programs give you.
Right.
You don't have the multiple mask. You don't have the as good as HSL qualifiers and all the qualifiers that you have. Technically, I think rotoscoping would be easier on Lumetri or in Premiere as a program.
Well, the rotoscope, sure, but
it.
tracking, I would disagree.
No,
I think the Davinci tracker is the best on the planet.
It's one of the best ones out there that's not Mocha.
Right, yeah. But Mocha's planar, so it gets to be a whole game that
exactly.
way. So yeah, I think, I'm not saying you can't do a good job in Premiere. I suck as a colorist. I've said that a million times.
No.
You can totally do a good job coloring in Premiere.
I've seen people do a great, I've seen people grade in After Effects. The biggest thing that I see is people don't bother to go to the color wheels and make any adjustments off the levels that way. They go straight to curves, and they grade everything off curves. And to me, it ends up looking like really funky. We call it, jokingly, the Vimeo look.
Yeah.
And then they put a vignette around it, and that's what we define as the Vimeo look.
A heavy vignette.
Yeah, that's a Baby Seal Troll Force personal thing. That's not an attack against anyone that likes to do that look. It's just something that I look at and go, oh, I've seen this a million times. There's nothing interesting. It's not balanced. It looks like every other video on the planet. I'm not saying make crazy grades either. I'm more drawn to a really beautiful, clean grade than I am a stylized grade, unless it's Bradley.
Yeah.
Because his stuff is insane. We'll talk about Bradley another day.
Bradley's one of my favorites.
I know this is... okay, Trev says...
Trev first,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he says that he usually... Well, don't have to read it. It's up on the screen. Trev, the main reason I don't CC before I do my white and my blacks is because if you're doing full RGB and Luma at the same time on your blacks and your white, your CC will change when you're lifting your blacks and your whites. That's why I put mine after I do my expansions. That's the biggest one for me, but there's nothing wrong with the way you're doing it. I think it's a great way to do it, really.
Right. It's just, it gets to be preference in your workflow.
Yeah, it does.
It's the same way like anything else.
Yeah.
It's if the end result works and the client's happy, you're happy, done. That's all that matters. Because everybody out in the world, especially on YouTube, I could hold up a red square. I don't have one. I can hold up a red square and people are going to argue it's blue. Fine, whatever. Okay, cool. I know it's red. I'm happy with the redness of the red square. Whatever.
Yeah. And it's like my preferences went from, I used to do a couple of different things in each node. Now each node is its own thing, and that is all that is in it. So if it's expansion, that's all that's in that node. Saturation's in its own node. Midtones, everything's all in its own nodes. And that was from having to rebuild a project with another colorist at the same time so that we could both backwards compat each other's styles into each other. And so that's why I went node for node. And that's how I do it ever since.
So Tyler asked, Jeff, is it best to drag your darkest point of the shot all the way down and brightest all the way to the top in general, or do you leave some room at the top and bottom?
It matters what my brightest spot and what my darkest spot is. If it is crushed black, I will take it to 0 from the start. And if it is a blown out white, I will take it right to 1023 and put it right at the top and the bottom. If it's not a true white or a true black, I do not. I put it decently close based on the way it looks with everything else.
But it's always going to be in flux because you're going to
Yes.
make adjustments
It's
back
always
and
in
forth.
flux, yes.
Yeah.
I always go back to that LUT and keep messing around, or that node and keep messing around.
Right. Don't say LUT. You'll confuse
I
the
know.
world. So earlier, MPEG asked, he said, I know this is going to be controversial, but do you believe the correct ISO and profiles other than log? ISO 200 or 400. Okay.
I believe in native ISOs.
Native ISO is what matters to a sensor. The native ISO that we've been told in a conversation with Matt, because I needed to know as a DP where it was. I'd seen all this stuff. I wanted it from an engineer. For the GH5, in every other profile, aside, now this does not count HLG at the moment. I don't have an answer to that question.
Yeah.
It could be different for HLG, but the native ISO for standard, natural, Cine D, all of that stuff is 200, and the native ISO for
VLOG
is 400.
And it's only because it doesn't do 200.
That's correct. So that said, that's to give you the least amount of noise. That's optimizing the sensor. However, if you, for example, need to shoot at 400, because I sometimes like to shoot at a 4-5-6 split, if I take it to 200, I probably won't get what I want out of it. So sometimes I will make sure to shoot at 4 in order to get the exposure that I want out of the camera, because there's a reason for multiple reasons. I don't like bokeh all the time. I don't need ultimate bokeh
not all the time, yeah.
all over the place. It's not what I'm into. I also don't want a long lens that everybody's shooting wide open and hoping is not really my style as a filmmaker. I like to have depth in my shots and see various elements in it. It's a personal preference on a film side. So just shooting wide open and hoping, if that's what you're wanting, then 200 all day and crank your 0.7 on with your speed booster and shoot all your lenses wide open, but you're missing kind of the beautiful spot of the lens, which is that 4-5-6 split on most lenses. Some are different. Anamorphics, it drops down a little bit. You got to close it down.
Yeah.
So that's where I kind of stand on that. I hope that makes sense, MPEG. I know we were talking offline about it on the comments. That's kind of where I landed.
Yeah.
Have you guys messed around with 3D LUT Creator? Oh.
Yes, I have messed around with 3D LUT Creator
Let's
quite
talk
often.
about something real quick. So if we do the Patreon, one of the things we want to do is anybody that signs up for it, we're going to give away a LUT. We're going to tailor it to probably the GH5. That seems to be the bulk of the community at the moment. But then we're going to have other LUTs that come out that you guys will talk about. And we'll even have offline sessions for you to tweak. This isn't shamelessly plugging, but in all honesty, there are some really great LUTs out there. And then there's some that I think are just kind of charging people for no reason. What we want to do is custom tailor the LUTs to the community, letting you guys have feedback on that.
Yeah,
That's part of the Patreon community is like, here's the custom LUT. I think it'd be fun too if eventually someone puts a good one up and we just start naming them after, whether it's your YouTube name or whatever you want. So then that way we all know they're community LUTs. And it becomes like a shareable thing for all of us to kind of work on and improve. The arrogance is to say this is the LUT and you have no idea and you can never make it better. I think the genius of this community is I think so many people would come in and nitpick it along with us in a creative, constructive way that we end up having like killer stuff. Now, if I find out people are reselling them, I'm going to yank the crap out of them and just go brutal. But like, if we do them as a team, then, you know, it's more money to go back into renting lenses, testing things, having contests, and all that kind of stuff. Speaking of, I want to introduce a contest at some point. I have an idea for like, I don't know, we'll work it out here. Well, I wanted to do like a 3-scene, but then I thought people might take that too extreme. So I was thinking like 45 seconds, so it's not really commercial, so that means we can't really use it for a commercial. But like a 45-second short film, right? It's got to have cleared music, and it's got to be your footage, however you want to present it. But I think we get, they send the short films in, the community votes on them, right? And then we have some outside votes so that in case, you know, if someone ran for school president, they can't just influence everyone with cupcakes.
I agree.
We have outside votes and the winner gets like, I don't know, we don't have a ton of money. We've only made no money off of YouTube, but I'll throw in $50. So suddenly we have a $50 gift card to, if you're international, maybe B&H, and if you're local, to Lens Rental, so you can rent the lens you wanted. And all you did was go shoot a 45-second cool scene, and whichever one wins. It doesn't even have to be on the GH5. I don't care if it's on your cell phone. If that 45 seconds wins, that's what I think is going to be really cool, because it's about storytelling, and it helps us all improve, and we'll know why. We might disagree with the winner. We might agree with the winner. But at the end of the day, people are going to pick it. In fact, I don't think you and I can even vote.
Sounds great to me.
Yeah, we'll just show them to our peers. I might send one to Alex, let Alex Funky look at it, so you can have an ASC guide viewing it. Horst is a VFX producer for Universal. Like, we can drop it in front of some really cool players, maybe a couple of actors, just to get a vibe on it, just to get feedback and see what it is. I don't know if you guys like the idea. We'll talk about it.
I thought with somebody else too. Another big name.
Let's see. Did he grade the footage yet? Are you the first person to me that said this? When exposing in camera with GH5 LOG, do you try to expose the blacks at 20 and the whites at 80? No, I expose the blacks at 10, typically.
We don't technically always expose for blacks or white.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's fair enough.
Skin tones we try to expose around 42 IRE.
Yeah.
That's where we base most of our stuff off of. I would say after that is trying to get your true, like a great exposure.
Right.
I would check my whites and my blacks, you know, make sure that it's inside, I would say probably 10 IRE to 80. I know technically it's 7.5 IRE is the bottom end where you lose information, and 81 is where you lose at the top. I would stay just inside of that myself. Yeah,
typically I end up landing at, I say 10, but I end up landing really closer to 12 to 15.
Yeah.
And then I try and stay the best I can under. But if you've seen the previous video, if you haven't seen it, go look at the video we posted about exposing log. That shot where the slider, I'm standing there holding the card there's a shot in there where I specifically say I'm backlit, so I have to make a choice. Do I expose for the color chart or do I expose for the background? And to me, the subject of the scene was to expose for the color chart, so I let the highlights clip. And even in Jeff's grade, he wasn't able to recover them because I clipped them. Yeah. But it was a conscious decision for me to know what I was exposing for. Whatever the content of your scene is, your story will dictate what you should expose for. 42 IRE and log. That's the common term for skin tones. Yeah,
skin tone. It's almost right in the middle.
Yeah, it's almost right in the middle.
It's just below middle.
Yeah, and that's tricky. That's probably the hardest part, I think, is exposing for that. But that's where ND comes in, and sometimes you need to shoot at 400 in order to help you get to that spot. Sometimes 200 or 800 to help you get to that spot when you're shooting log. So you always have to mix it up that particular way. Who can make the worst LUT? That's funny. MPEG, well done. Do you guys think G85 could have HLG or log? A lot of us on budget would want. I don't think it will. I think Panasonic, from a business perspective, is going to keep that camera being in the class of its own and letting the GH5 be a class and then letting the EVA 1 be a class. As far as I know, I haven't seen anything about the EVA 1 having HLG, by the way.
I actually have not seen anything about it.
Which I think is kind of interesting to consider.
I also haven't researched a lot.
I haven't done a ton of research. It could have it. I just haven't seen it. Nobody, they didn't tout any of their videos in it if it did.
Yeah, exactly.
So just consider that. I think each one of their tools has a very specific, fun use as a tool in that capacity. All right. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this is kind of fun too. So this is another Jeff versus Drew grade. I put them side by side, but it's also mixing up log and HLG, so you do get to see some of Jeff's grades in HLG and log side by side. And so I kind of wanted to show those because I think it's pretty fascinating at how terrible of a colorist I am. No. And how great of a colorist Jeff is. Just kidding, can't do it. But it is pretty.
Oh, with deep voice too.
Yeah, you baby seal troll voiced yourself. Jeff just BSTF'd himself.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great quote. Need that one to keep around. All right, so anyway, so what we want to do now is just show you guys some of this footage and we'll talk it through. I don't think Jeff has seen the side-by-side comparison.
I have not, actually.
So this will be kind of live. So here we go. Yeah, so as you can see. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to tell, but it's pretty incredible. Both log. Again, I am not a colorist. That's not my world. I let an expert handle that. I just know how to get the shot I want and expose it. Right. And deal with the talent, this very frustrated talent. Look how green biased my shit is.
Very frustrated.
It's crazy.
That's a happy kid.
As we've talked about, I tried to neutralize for the green, and Jeff tried to neutralize for the...
I went straight for skin tones.
Yeah, he went straight for skin tones, which meant the magenta influence, which is normally what I do, and, you know... Jeff's would never look like the one on the right, but it did. The HLG is kind of fascinating, though. The detail, there's a lot more detail in Jeff's version, as we've talked about using Davinci to do it. You didn't edit, you didn't grade this. This is Rec 709 HLG.
It's HLG used in 709 space.
Did you do a color transform?
No.
Okay.
It's being thrown in, it's reading it as a 709 color space.
Right.
Which is the way a lot of people might end up using it. I'm not sure. That's why I wanted to do this test. I found it very fascinating. To me, it comes out raw in 709 color space with a really nice, almost too contrasty kind of imagery.
Right.
To it.
Right. I still see that there's a detail loss in the HLG to me versus that of log. When we were looking at it even on like blown up on the HDR monitor.
I think it's the same thing as doing an HDR to SDR conversion.
Yeah.
That's an algorithmic conversion.
Right.
Unless you're making a LUT to convert it down. And I think that's where the big change is. I think the algorithms for the programs are mushing up colors in certain spots.
I agree.
I'm not exactly sure, because I know it's in the lower IREs, but I'd like to do more testing with the highlights that are readable to see if there is any mushing of the very upper end, which I think there's going to be quite a bit.
Yeah, I think there probably will be too. It's just amazing to me, like, again, letting a professional touch it versus me. I could work at it. I spent not a lot of time. I think we spent equal amounts of time, about an hour each, to do all these shots.
Do all of them.
And so just like, so what takes Jeff 1 hour takes me I'd probably get it closer to this in about 4 hours, 3 hours, somewhere in that range. The other side of this, it's really important, is consider what you're using to grade with. This was graded not just in DaVinci. I think that's important, but you have the proper monitoring tools.
There's two different things that make it faster, because I did probably take an hour on this, but I also probably did about 3 or 4 different looks for each shot.
Right.
Part of that is proper monitoring, and then, which costs a decent amount of money, and you have to have a good chunk of change to be able to do decent monitoring with it. And then the other part is, as much as I don't like promoting everybody having them, is the color panels. You know, and I use tangent elements, but color panels for me make everything so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of impressive that, to me, I'm actually more interested in your version of this than I am my version.
Right. There is some interesting things I got out of it that you didn't.
Yeah, actually, like the green bias, actually.
There's an interesting detail shift though. Like some of my stuff has got a little more edge to it than yours does, as far as the detail element goes. But I think the bigger concern I still have is just how things fall off and mush out a little bit.
I do, yeah.
I mean, your leaves, the clarity on those leaves side by side there is night and day compared to where mine were. All right, so that's kind of looking at the HLG log stuff, and it's a huge debate. People are going back and forth. Everyone has an opinion on it. George Clooney asks if we used an external recorder. No, this was all done
all internal recording.
It was it's all internal. All I, you know, we're working off beta firmware 1.7 or something, so it's early on in the process. Or for us, we have an earlier version of the beta. That's what we were afforded to use for Heirloom. That was not an external recorder. I'm not about to carry that big rig with my 2 kids. It was just me and the 2 kids, and literally the littlest one tried to jump off the bridge multiple times. Now, partly could be because I'm her dad.
N-O.
But it could also be because she was just tired of dealing with me and her sister.
Yeah, she loves me.
Yeah, she loves Jeff. Jeff's her jam. So anyway, so she didn't want to deal with it, and I shot that again on my single parenting stuff. So I hope that helps, George Clooney.
Yeah.
At CRFTSHO, do you have a prayer? A prayer? That's interesting. Trying to grade a delivery for 2020 on normal monitor, because I heard color experts say you don't need 2020 to do HDR, but is there a point in HDR in 709? I don't.
Not really, because you're losing a lot of color space staying in 709. 2020 gives you a whole lot more room to deal with.
Yeah, there's a major difference. Even if you just look at footage when you switch between 2020 footage, when you just look at it back and forth.
Vlog.
Yeah.
Or if it's natural or whatever, there's a big difference. 709 is compressing in where the color space is. 2020 is a much larger space that you can work in. I wouldn't recommend doing 709 for HDR, but I guess it could be possible to do.
I don't understand how that works. No, it won't. It won't flag correctly. It doesn't flag
YouTube will not flag it.
Yeah, YouTube won't flag it.
Yeah, YouTube will not flag it.
I don't know if televisions will then.
I don't know. That's what I don't know the delivery of other people.
Yeah, I don't
know. It might
know.
be a 709 that gets converted to 2020 by somebody else.
Well, okay, so wait a second. There's a whole engineering side of this that 709 can get run into an HLG converter and it gets bumped up, right? But you're not dealing. We're talking about 2 different things, and I think this is where HDR is going to really, pardon the expression, but everybody over, is that all of a sudden HDR is going to become a catch-all phrase, but there's so many flavors inside of HDR. HDR 10 or PQ or it's not Dolby Vision, it's something else. They call it, they have another term for it, but that level, HDR 10 or PQ, same thing, if you ever see those terms. That's what you do if you're a filmmaker and you want to mandate exactly how this is going to look in a theater or on broadcast or anywhere else. HLG is a relative, so what ends up happening is it uses a scene algorithm to go through and help evaluate whatever your broadcast monitor is, whether it is HDR or not, it adjusts for it. If you try and play HDR 10 content on an SD monitor, it looks like crap. Yes, you can play HLG on a monitor and it doesn't look as bad because it automatically adjusts for it, right? But that means that Jeff's color grade is not a definitive color grade anymore. That means if we made very careful choices in color and saturation and other elements as a DP, as a director, as a colorist, as a producer, we're losing those options. So you have to consider that HLG versus HDR when we get into that conversation. It comes down to how you want your image perceived. That's what it really comes down to. So the element in that HLG is 100% free in the new firmware upgrade, as far as I know.
It is.
They've not said anything else different to us.
As far as I know, everything says that it's going to be free.
Yeah. No, Scott, we still got that question, buddy.
Yeah, we still have not done it yet.
Yeah, we did not do it. It's not a dramatic story.
MPEG, they might end up doing it, but right now, if you're doing 709 HDR into YouTube, it is not triggering. And you could do it in a way where you use one of the other programs to add the metadata tag to it. That might make it do it.
But in order to do that,
no, I know.
It has to see the transfer characteristics.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now,
So
I mean, we can test it, but every time we've done those, we've had it rejected. And so
it's the same with 2100. Rec 2100 does not tag on YouTube.
Correct.
And it's the newer version of HLG.
Right.
But YouTube will not.
But it's also if you're really displaying 4K correctly, as we learned, or no, we did that with an 8K test. We had to have it in 2020. Out of Premiere, we had to do it out of 2020. Otherwise, it didn't display the color correctly. It looks washed out.
Yes.
And that's because it's not reading the color information, the transfer characteristics, actually. It's not reading those. So as far as I know, you cannot upload a 709 because it's a transfer characteristic with that in place. Yeah. So I don't think it'll work. It's worth exploring and testing, but I don't think, based on what we know about what we found and learned off of doing metadata stuff, physically doing it, not theorizing, not bullshitting, shittling. We physically did the work, and we erred a lot. And a lot of those errors in the initial beginning were us experimenting with what we had to have turned on, turned off in order to get the metadata tagging to work. Yeah. If that makes sense. I hope that helps. MPEG, if you figure it out, let me know, because I think it's a great point. Yeah,
it is something that MPEG is going to be something YouTube is going to have to figure out very fast. Not only 709, but 2100, ST2084. Not technically that one's already figured out, but ST2086 it was not tagging. 84 was tagging. 86 was not. So I mean, there's a lot of different things that are out there. It's kind of a free for all at the moment.
Yeah.
So, hold on.
I think a lot of people are concerned with dynamic range, and I've said this a billion times. Like, if you're really concerned with it, first off, what are your intentions with being concerned with dynamic range? Is question one. If you're just because you don't have any light and you're walking into a room with no lights in it, and that's how you're going to approach a scene. Nothing you're going to do is going to fix that. Your dynamic range, no matter, you can bring the Sony. That's what I would tell you to do. Bring the Sony. If that's how you want to be a filmmaker, is no lighting, that's your style, don't use the GH5. Get an A7S2, because you're never going to light it, if that's how you're going to approach it. However, if you're looking for dynamic range in terms of seeing the roll-off and other pieces on the high end of the dynamic range, I think a lot of people look for dynamic range on the low end. If you're looking for dynamic range on the high end to help control you in that space, then I think, log is a great way to go. I think if I were picking, everyone keeps wanting to know if you can shoot HLG and get a benefit without buying log. Look, if you're really concerned with the best image you possibly can, what is $100? I'm serious. What's $100? You have a $2,000 camera and you're afraid of spending $100 to get the best image you possibly can? That makes no sense. No! It's stupid. Just consider the simple idea that at the end of the day, if you're really concerned with the image, if you really are concerned with the image, $100 means squat if you can actually get all the data you want. Specifically, if you want to make sure that everyone views that footage exactly the way you intended them to do it. If you're not, and you're going to let the world dictate how you shoot footage, then shoot in HLG all day. And present it in HDR, because otherwise it has no value to you whatsoever. I just don't see what the value would be versus natural versus Cine D or any of those other ones if you're really comparing those two down the road. It makes no sense. It's a stylistic choice, but it makes no sense beyond that.
That's what it is, just another stylistic choice on the wheel of different settings that they have.
Yeah, exactly. It's silly. It's silly. Or get an Ari. Great point. That's great. Loved it. Let's see. Just reading through the comments here. The ton of noise, extras, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Scott R. What I think about dynamic range is most people don't use the dynamic range that we've got available today. Fact. Nobody wants to light a scene. Fact. Log doesn't give you highlight range. The extra stops are always... I disagree, MPEG, because it's going to force you to pull it down. And that's where I'm seeing the range differential. And if you want to test it, go ahead. Shoot everything you can on a 1.7 stop push, and let's show the noise. If you're really concerned with the bottom end noise of everything that you want to do, and you want to shoot in pitch black dark, the other option is to get some night vision. Just get night vision. Then you have the ultimate dynamic range to shoot in the middle of the effing dark. My point is that the log is going to force you to close down, and it's going to force you to shoot better. That's my point with dealing with log. No offense. Of course you know that. We've had conversations. We're pals. Yeah.
Jones upcoming HDR Heaven Blade. Yeah, I will wish it was. I don't know if it is. Blade Runner 2049 in HDR.
Yeah.
That was an HDR 10 movie.
Oh, I'm sure there's an HDR 10. Aren't you the one that has the Dolby Vision Cinema, bro? Isn't it you, Jefu? Don't you have the Dolby Cinema? Get a light. MPEG. Yes, my boy. That's what I'm saying. Get a light. Some people are concerned about dynamic range for situations where lighting isn't an option, run and gun style weddings, which is what I do, so dynamic range is important for those. Great, then I wouldn't shoot in log. That's what I would tell you. Because I think you're going to end up with a more frustrating scenario if you're concerned about noise. If you don't care about a little bit of grain in your image, then shoot in log all day. But if you're really concerned about it in that sense, I wouldn't do it in that space. I'd also tell you if it was really going to be that, I understand the wedding perspective is a great argument. It's a fantastic argument. And I often forget that I assume that everyone in the world is an a-hole filmmaker like myself, and I often don't consider the documentary element of it. I'd actually say that if you really wanted to do it, I would look at the Evil One for the dual ISO scenario. I think if you are forced to shoot a lot of dark weddings, then use an A7S. I mean, I'm not saying step away from the GH5, but like if that's where you're really stuck, to me it's about you being able to survive and make money, then use a particular piece of equipment. I think that would be the differentiating factor. I'm a fanboy of nothing at the end of the day. I'm a fanboy of telling the best story I can. I don't know if that helps or not.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm
fair
a
statement?
fanboy of some DPs.
Yeah. Oh, get some neat. Get neat too. If you don't want to do that, get neat and just noise reduce the piss out of it. There is an HDR Blade Runner. Yeah.
Yep.
But he's talking about 2049. That's the one we want to go see.
Yeah. Apparently, the remaster is in HDR as well. No.
Yeah, Dolby Cinema Vision. That's what it is. Yeah. If I were shooting weddings, I'd be all over C100. Yeah, those are insane at low light. Yeah. I shot some stuff at 8,000 or something crazy. I don't remember now, but it's been a while. It was nuts. That camera is a beast for low light. So what I do is have a C100, a used C100, and then I'd have a GH5 for all the other pretty stuff. So for like the styly lifestyle stuff, like the bride getting ready, the daytime stuff, I'd use the GH5, and for all of my oh shucks it's nighttime shittle moments, I'd switch over to the C100. That's a great point, Trev. Well done.
Yeah.
Preach it, Drew. Yeah, I know. I went off on a tangent. I recommend an actual log card because if you have to get your camera serviced, they might remove log. That's actually fact.
Yes,
it happened to us. That happened to us. I can't go into details, but it happened to us. Airport pickup. Cheers, boys. See you while we have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. It's early there.
Yeah.
So Scott R.
Yeah, exactly.
Asked where we got the name CRFTSHO.
Yeah.
Well, it's from a bunch of different things. So the name was born out of, so it's a company, first and foremost. CRFTSHO is not me, it is not Jeff, it is a company of knuckle turds that are unified under one flag of knuckle turdery. And now Baby Seal Troll Force. I think the name came along partly in terms of we both love craft beer, but more importantly, we're really into things that are handcrafted. I think the approach to, the artisan approach to anything is a beautiful thing. I think a lot of the beer that we are fans of, the brewers we're fans of, the whiskey, the food, the culture of our lives is very much derivative of that handcrafted approach. We appreciate people who care. That's part of the reason why we fall in love with the GH5 is that, not that it's a handcrafted camera, but it does feel like there's a lot of thought put into what they are giving us inside of a camera versus some other ones where I think it's just great technological wonders. I just don't know if they think about the filmmaker as much. I feel like a GH5 is better for filmmakers than anything else in terms of that space. So everything we kind of touch is in that sort of element. And so we started shooting our content, our videos and our commercial work and that approach. The idea was, well, we want to show people that element. We want to give them that. So CRFTSHO is that idea that we're both obsessed with a handcrafted approach and that we will show them
Yeah.
handcrafted, but we'll also show them how to handcraft and kind of approach things from a helpful standpoint. That's kind of where it comes from.
I agree.
Yeah.
On all that.
That's where we are.
We actually had one way earlier that was craft that we talked about building at first.
For a long time. That was years ago.
Yeah, that became...
It became Craft Show later.
Yeah. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
Just further along in life.
Yep. The GH5, there's some big things about the C100 NDs. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the GH5 does great. I just think in low light, I think the C100 does better, Tyler, in low light, in my opinion. Yeah, no worries, Scott R. You asked for it, you got it.
Yeah.
Rumors are about the 27th. Yes, we've heard that. They're asking about when the firmware. 27th of November.
No.
Troll bait. Yeah, we've heard the 27th. It feels like November at this point.
It does.
Sailing Rewind.
No!
That was a good one.
Yeah, you're in.
Yep.
Well played. Sailing Rewind with the troll. There's a longer story about beer. That the first beer I ever had that
Much
was
longer.
not that was the first craft beer I ever had. It's a much longer story, and I'll tell it one day when I've been drinking more.
You know what? Might be a good one if we have our audience in the room with another audience.
Yeah.
And then we bring in a massive bottle of something
Oh yeah.
that is made by the same brewery.
Yeah, live Craft Show drunkenness.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I see a lot of other questions. People asking about HLG. What's the biggest difference between HLG and log? There's a great video we posted earlier. There's a tremendous amount of differences between HLG and log. One is an HDR format, one is not, and then you can watch the videos. We're going to keep the comments open as we always do, just to let you guys talk. And this time we're going to try an experiment. Yeah, we haven't done anything. We'll go back and read and see what we missed. Yeah. We're going to try a quick experiment. It's just going to be a black screen, or it should have Craft Show on the logo or something on there. And we'll just let it run so we can keep recording them in case you missed something and you want to go back, which has happened to us a couple of times. You're like, gosh, I wish I could remember what that comment was, or somebody pointed out something. Very clever and very creative. Oh yeah, thanks Jeff. I appreciate it. Yeah, we like this. This is actually the first, second, third, fifth office I was in. I've bounced around in this room a lot.
If we ever get this little middle section finished here, we might be able to do a tour during the
Oh yeah, let me see if I can pan it. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, it's the live audience.
Yeah, live audience is fine. All right, so we're gonna pan it over.
So we were at Drew's desk, and see if the HDMI will run. And then you can shoot into my office, kind of.
Don't move, live audience. Just stay right there. And then I'll just turn this light on.
So you can see part of the room. So yeah, we have it basically so that me and Drew can see each other while we work. Every day, all day.
They cut a hole for us, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So we have a much bigger space. Oh, this lighting is hideous.
Yeah, Scott, our Batman is just making sure everything is going okay today. He's just guarding us.
Yeah, the guy that does the Batman voice is not here today, so we can't actually do anything with it. All right.
Look, you can kind of see. There's some TV show back
Good Day is
there.
asking, could I somehow make HLG and log footage available for download? Unfortunately, our NDA does not allow us to put that out. We're not allowed to do it, so I apologize. Yeah, we are still pretty hungover. That is fact. I'm not allowed to upload it. However, there's a guy, the guy that runs EOSHD. Does that sound right to you guys?
EOSHD.
Whatever. EOSHD, whatever. That dude, Scott something maybe. Anyway, he was able to post footage. Our NDA did not allow us to. So he's got some all-eye footage. Now, we have all-eye footage up, but he has some all-eye and he has some HLG footage. I don't know if he has all-eye log footage, though. I'm not totally sure, but it's EOS HD.
Yeah.
I never heard of him. Yeah, slap me. Yeah, it's just
You want me to? No.
No!
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up. As always, we will keep the feed flowing, and we just will not be on mic, but we can keep the chat going. If you have more questions, if you have any other stuff about colorists, questions for Jeff about log or HLG or whatever, we'll keep the chat open.
I guess I could sneak one more thing in that we might be doing a little bit more color stuff next week.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah,
I
it
can
could be
say
gone
that.
next week.
Yeah,
I might be
I
out.
could say that. So it might be very color-oriented week next week.
Yep.
See, sorry for the what monitor did we grade?
All right, we'll see you guys later.
on?
Cheers.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Justin Gale. Thanks, bro. You get a special shout out. Justin Gale.
Thank you, Justin.
That was out of control awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to spend it on you. I promise. We'll find a way. Tell us what you want to see. Drew@CRFTSHO.com. Special one night only appearance in your pants.
According to
Is there sound? There's sound. I see the sound.
Is there?
Yeah, Justin Gale. Double shout out. Shout out number 2 for Justin Gale. We have sound. I see sound coming through.
All right, that's fine.
Shout out. Thank you, Justin Gale.
Well, look at you. You're
Yeah.
smart.
Look, I did it. Got the Batman record. Justin Gale. I won't give that to you, but you can smell it.